for me.
Hi, very good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see all of you here again, supporting our MIS, the Marketing Institute of Singapore Lunchtime Webinar. Now, this initiative is organized by the Marketing Institute of Singapore in support to our Singapore Circuit Breaker and the nationwide effort to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Now, therefore, this session, the reason why we are doing this every day, like what I said, is actually to keep you company throughout the whole circuit breakdown, including the lockdown period itself. So hopefully, even after the lockdown period, do remember to keep MIS in mind just in case you've got anything that you want to engage with us. Now, today we've actually entered into our day 9 of our Zoom lunchtime webinar. And today, certainly we're very, very, very excited to actually have one of our top trainer, that's Miss Madeline Ernest, with us today to talk about the practical strategies for supervising others. I think in today's context, especially during the COVID-19 or even post-COVID-19 itself, a lot of organizations out there will probably be faced with having to do a lot of things that probably will affect the stakeholders within the organizations. So at this time, managing your staff or managing your stakeholders can be quite tricky, right, at this time. So this is where today we can hear from our trainer from the Marketing Institute of Singapore, Ms. Madeline Ernest, to talk more and then tell us what are some of the strategies that we can use in terms of supervising. At the same time, I think empathy perhaps can be one of the way. So let's hear from her more later. Okay, next, MIS, being a not-for-profit organization, we are also doing our bit in terms of our corporate social responsibility project. Now, here's where I think over the past 1 week, most of you here have joined us for a while. We will know that MIS, we're actually running a mass donation drive right now. Now, this initiative is not for local. In fact, the mask that you donate will be sent to Philippines, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and including Malaysia. Okay. Now, reason being because I think our local government, I really have to say a word of thanks to our local government for doing such a great job in ensuring all the Singaporeans are being equipped with a mask, which can sufficiently at least protect themselves in getting the COVID virus itself. But I couldn't say more for our community in the region, especially Philippines. Not all of them have the privilege to a very basic protective gear such as a mask. So therefore, MIS, we are doing our bit in terms of gathering our corporate members, including the member of public out there. If you have if you think that you can actually join us in this mask donation, we're not looking very much. A box of masks which we're getting from the manufacturer is about $20 or $21, and that's all. Okay, and there are 50 masks inside, so you're able to benefit 50 packs, 50 person in Philippines itself with just $20. All right, and the freight charges will be bared by one of our donors. Okay, so do join us. In a very small little way in impacting the whole community, not just from Singapore. Since we are a global citizens, so MIS will be doing our bit. So do look out for more. There are 2 telephone numbers over there which you can call them. If you intend to actually join us in our mass donation, please call Judy or Edgar. I mean, both of the numbers which are being flashed on the screen right now. Right. Next. Okay, this is, as you can see, the whole suite of webinar sessions that we've done over the past 1 week. We're looking forward to our Monday sessions too. Now, MIS, as you know, we have been existed for the past 46 years, and we are a not-for-profit organization. And we do have a Facebook. Certainly do. So now, please join us on our Facebook to get more information and some of the initiatives that we are doing right now. So just click on the like on our Marketing Institute of Singapore Facebook. All right, as you can see, the next in line on the Facebook itself is also about the Marketing Institute of Singapore Business School. Okay, now at this stage, I would like to touch on the next slide on our executive program. Now, Miss Madeline Ernest is part of, excuse me, part of our executive training programs trainer itself. As you can see, MIS, we do have 120 over courses. We're currently doing online right now, so it makes it very easy for all of you to join us across 9 disciplines. All right, and I would like to give thanks to Training Age, which the founder is Dave Pua. All right, Mr. Dave Pua, for introducing good trainers to MIS so that we are able to bring across the training sessions to our members. Okay. Right, so at this time, I think enough of being said. Today's sessions will be shared, in fact, on our YouTube channels and on our MI's Facebook Live. So hopefully, more of you out there, our regular attendees, as I can see a lot of you right here. Some of my colleagues from the Asia Marketing Federations is actually has been here since the very day that we started till today. And I really want to give a word of thanks to our friends from the 17 countries under the Asia Marketing Federations. So without further ado, let's bring Miss Madeline Ernest up to share with us on her slides. Hi, Madeline.
Hi, Roger. How are you doing?
Okay, we are doing great today. So, we're certainly very happy that you're able to share your expertise with us. And of course, being our top trainer in MIS itself, I think a lot of our attendees here today would like to hear more from you. In times like this, I think where you need to juggle between management and perhaps the frontline staff, and how some of the strategies that we can use in helping to breach the differences between them. So here's where we can hear from you, Madeline. So take it on.
Thanks, Roger. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome from wherever you are in the region, and thank you for spending the next hour with me. One of the workshops I run for MIS is actually called Practical Strategies in Supervising Others. And I think with this current situation, it's good for us to basically reflect on some of our own management styles, how we can do it better, and how maybe in some cases, certain company rules and standards that we've been following can be adjusted. So let me just share with you what I'm going to do today. The workshop I run for MIS is actually modular. It runs over 2 days and it covers topics such as team management, empathy, even strategies in written communication. Impossible to share everything in an hour. So what I thought is I will try to bring to light something that will be very close to us, and that is how to actually facilitate effective meetings. So let me just bring up my slide. I hope you've all had lunch. If not, please bear with me. I promise not to run over. So let's see, lunch is served, the intellectual lunch, that is. What I'm going to talk to you about today and share some tips on is really about facilitating effective meetings. And like I mentioned earlier, there's some, let me just close my video so I can see. There are certain things we need to take note of. For example, one of the common problems I always hear is people in middle management telling me, but in our organization, we've always only done it this way. Is it possible we can change? My boss won't like it. But there's always opportunity to get better at things. This lockdown, or in Singapore, we've called it circuit breaker, it's an opportunity for us to really examine our approach to meetings. And like everything else, sometimes we need a recharge and we need a chance to get ready to reset in order to be more effective. So for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually divide my little session into 3 parts. And it starts with preparing for meetings, and then what you do as a leader in the meetings, and how to solve common problems. Middle managers have a challenging role because not only are they in charge of their own workload, their own KPIs in making sure things are done, they also have the complex issue of leading their teams. And in many cases, they will be in charge of meetings, and some meetings might be casual, Others might be a bit more formal. So let me share with you some tips for all of them. Breaking it down further, under preparing, I'll speak a bit about agendas and something that is used commonly for formal meetings, matters arising. Under leading, I'll talk about your role as a facilitator. And under solving problems, I'll share with you some strategies on what you can do in order to make sure that some of the common problems we face will actually be hopefully less common after we get back to work in the office. So for the first part, preparing, I've actually come up with what I consider the 3 P's to preparing for meetings, and that is again, prepare, participate, and be productive. Under prepare, if you're invited to a meeting, especially in middle management and above, you must be prepared to contribute to the meeting. It can't be oh, let me go in there and just listen what everyone has to say because, you know, I've had no time to read the notes. That's not going to make you very productive, and the discussion will also not be as robust. This is something I like to stress upon. Always be prepared to arrive early and avoid being late. A 9 a.m. meeting means you have to be in the room at least 10 minutes before 9. It doesn't mean leaving your desk at 9 a.m. to walk to the meeting room. You'll never reach there at 9 a.m. The meeting will start late, and as a result, everything will be pushed back. This has to be a company mandate. It has to start from you or your boss. Everyone's got to try to remember the new 9 a.m. meeting starts at 8:45. So you move from your desk or you arrive at your workplace at 8:45, head to the meeting 10 minutes before the meeting starts. Once you start to do this, the rest of your team, the people who report into you, will start to understand that this is what is expected of them. It is a very practical step that will help everyone ensure the meeting is started on a timely basis. And if there is an agenda for the meeting, you need to be prepared by reading the agenda before the meeting. Again, you are a role model, so you need to ensure that the agenda is read, you understand the items on the agenda, so that when you go into the meeting, you are prepared. Moving on to the next P, participate. How do you participate? Easy, ask questions. If there's anything that's unclear, ask, clarify. Take notes. There are certain things that cannot be remembered. We are all, unfortunately, not growing young, but growing older, gracefully. However, certain things actually do slip our minds, so we have to take notes. And if there's something that you need to share, share it. Be part of your community in the organization. Share your ideas. Talk about best practices, talk about challenges you have faced. If someone from another team is sharing with you an idea that actually hits home. And the last one about being productive, we have a tendency of carrying on side conversations. It doesn't matter if the person is from your team or someone not in your team. The challenge is always, oh, since you're sitting beside me, can I talk about problem ABC? Or can I now discuss, what happened the other day? Try not to do that, because as many trainers before me have articulated, we all cannot multitask. We think we can, but we cannot. The minute you try to do 2 things at the same time, one will be compromised. Your productivity in one of them will definitely be compromised. So try to avoid carrying out side conversations. Remove any distractions you have in front of you. This has become a huge problem because everyone is now attached to their phone. No one minds losing their wallet anymore. Losing their phone is a disaster. Try not to have try not to always be looking at your phone because it is a distraction. Try to focus on the meeting, and if possible, keep your phone away for the duration of the meeting. And if you are a speaker, if you are presenting, keep to the allocated time if you've been given an allocated time on the agenda. There shouldn't be this this feeling of, oh, but I have so much to say, everyone, all the decision makers are in the room, this is my only chance. Not if it's not on the agenda, this is not your chance. This is not the place to table this discussion, and I'll speak more about that a little later. So preparing for meetings, sometimes these days all our organizations are very lean, and many middle managers or even senior managers have to do everything from arranging the room arrangements to actually presenting at the meeting. So a few checklists that you can consider. First one, why are we having a meeting? What are the objectives? This word objectives is quite interesting, and I will spend a bit of time discussing meeting objectives with you in the next couple of slides. What is the desired outcome of this meeting? What do you want? Do you want an approval? Do you want something to be passed? Do you want to share information? And who should attend? The challenge with meetings is sometimes we have lost the understanding about what a meeting is. Only invite people to the meeting who have a direct reason to be there. It shouldn't be, okay, let's just invite the whole market to talk about something that remotely involves them. Get one guy who you know is in charge of this project or this matter. He should be there. It will be a better use of his time, and he would also find it more useful, and he will be knowledgeable. If you get the entire team there, there's a tendency that probably many people who don't have a reason to be there are just taking up space and will not contribute to the meeting. And this is something you need to think about as a middle manager. What kind of involvement and participation do you want from the meeting? Are you looking for a discussion? Do people need to do research? What is it that you want? Are people supposed to share with you ideas? Is there going to be a brainstorm session? What is it? So important that we have these things at the back of our mind. Other things, maybe, you know, some of these things seem a bit easy and simple, but sometimes, as I've learned in many a meeting, sometimes the simplest things are the ones that we miss. Where are we going to meet? Even till now, I have attended many client meetings, and when I appear at the client's office, then they go, oh yeah, we forgot to book a room. Yeah, that doesn't really go well. If you are having a meeting, either engage someone in your team to make sure the room is booked, that you have a place to meet. If it's a very casual meeting and you're meeting at the canteen or just in the lobby area, that's fine, as long as you know where you're going to meet. What are the room arrangements? Of course, in this instance, if you are having a meeting that requires your bosses and your boss's boss or other external stakeholders, ensure the arrangements in the room are adequate. Are there enough PowerPoints to go around if people need their laptops to share some presentations? Is it a classroom setting? Is it a boardroom setting? Whatever it is, make sure the room arrangements are in place. And what roles and responsibilities should individual have? Many a time, we usually get someone who is maybe the intern or maybe someone a little junior in our team to be the minute taker. That's fine. It's good training. Minute taking always ensures that we are paying attention, so that's good practice. But the challenge is this: that same person is also the coffee girl, which shouldn't be the case. She can't be, you know, running out for coffee and biscuits and taking minutes at the same time. So try to ensure that the roles that you give out are fair. Who will have the authority to make decisions? It is important, if you need a decision you need to arrive at a decision, that the decision maker is in the room. If the decision maker is not in the room, then there's no way that the rest of the team is able to arrive at a decision, and you would have to meet again. So maybe you will need to reconsider whether this meeting should actually go on. So I spoke about this earlier, just very briefly. I just want to talk a bit about this in slight more detail. And this is what I consider meeting objectives. This is different from an agenda. And the reason we have meeting objectives is because it allows for focus. We know what to expect. We know what we are going into the meeting for. So what is a meeting objective? It's really, you start with the end in mind. The objective for the meeting must be crystal clear. Usually when I talk about meeting objectives, I am looking for one sentence, not an entire agenda, but just one sentence, because that really works better than reading out the whole agenda and saying that's the objective we are doing, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way down to 5.2. Doesn't go very well, and you would have lost everyone after 1.1. So some examples of a meeting objective. During this meeting, we will decide, or we are here to generate and evaluate options for. So something like this. Certain words, certain buzzwords that you can always use include generate, evaluate options. We are here to decide on the person that will lead the next project. Whatever you may choose, but keep it to one sentence. And I don't want to use the term short and sweet, I don't want to overuse the term, but I'm sure you get the drift. Make sure when you read the sentence, you understand it, so that people who receive the objective will understand it as well. When we talk about informal meetings, there are three types. Usually, of course, there are lots more, but I basically categorize them into these three headings because I think that's easier. First, information meetings. Second, discussion and exploratory meetings. And third, problem-solving meetings. So usually if we have three pigeonholes, this would be the three types of meetings that we are usually faced with. So when it comes to information meetings, some possible objectives would be all staff will be informed of the new commission structure in conjunction with XXX. So when I receive the meeting invite and the agenda and I see this objective, it's very clear to me. And you as a middle manager or senior manager, what you have shown is that you are in command of the meeting. You understand exactly what is to happen, and you are in charge of ensuring these objectives will be reached. And possible objective for a discussion meeting really is when maybe participants can start thinking about the issue beforehand. Maybe your objective would be, we want to shortlist possible ways to optimize visitor numbers to our to our gallery or to our museum without compromising quality. So this requires people to think of some ideas and to come up with and be able to contribute at the meeting. And lastly, if it's a problem-solving meeting, really, maybe this could involve a cross-functional team. And what happens here is that they will approach the issue from different points of view. So a possible objective, agree on recommended solution to reduce wastage at XYZ. So basically with this, hopefully it gives you an idea of what I think would help you in conducting your meeting better. And this way, it's a very practical strategy. It's not something it's not something that requires you to spend, more than 10 or 15 minutes doing. But what it will give you in the end is a clearer hold of the meeting itself. So just in summary of what I was sharing about objectives must be determined in advance. You cannot decide on the objective at the start of the meeting. It should be decided prior to the meeting. They must be clear to the leader before they they must be clear to the leader before they can become clear to the other participants in the meeting. And all objectives would be better understood if they are phrased in terms of what should be accomplished. So my advice is always to phrase the objectives in a single sentence and try not to have the objectives in a paragraph. So what is an ineffective meeting? Certain things that come to mind. No one is prepared. So, of course, there are cases these days, and of course, we need to be prepared for tricky situations. And sometimes ad hoc meetings are called in crisis meetings are called. That is something completely different. And I don't mean to take that. I don't mean to talk about that in this instance. Here, when I talk about no one is prepared, I really mean that there was a meeting planned, probably a week, 3 days, 2 days in advance, and people who come into the meeting are not prepared to engage in any discussion. This is also an ineffective meeting when meetings start late and end late. I think if this whole COVID-19 situation has taught us is the importance of time and how we have taken time for granted in many settings. So meetings should always start punctually and they should end punctually. Every meeting leader should really be very responsible in this regard, and always remember what you put out there is what your team will remember. If for some reason meetings tend to start late, try to always still end punctually and not make it habitual that whenever a certain department or a certain project head is starting a meeting, it is always going to start late and end late. Try not to let this happen. Again, please, of course, I'm very aware that there are cases where meetings will have to end late. And of course, if that's the case because a crisis has occurred, then there is an emergency discussion needed, so be it. But it shouldn't be habitual. It shouldn't be the way things are. That should not be the case. Then it's also an ineffective meeting if certain people dominate the conversations. And this is a common problem. And later on, just at the third part of my presentation, I will share with you a strategy on how you can hopefully try not to let this happen too much. Certain people dominate decisions. That's also a problem. This sometimes could be a result of certain key personnel in your organization wearing various hats. So basically, they have decision-making power over various sections of your agenda and meeting. That's fine, but be prepared that people will then view it as, why are we all needed if our input is not appreciated, if our input is not considered. So be prepared to contain that in its own way. Nothing gets accomplished. Well, sometimes, hopefully, as a middle manager and a senior manager, this will not happen to you, but be prepared that in some cases, there is no proper agenda, and as a result, during the meeting, nothing is accomplished. There's no record of meetings, so discussions occur over and over. This is an issue. So although my background actually is something that is not formal, I come from an advertising background, we always had minutes for meetings. Our minutes could be maybe sometimes not formally written. It could be in the form of just an email, but at least there's a record of minutes. And I think that's important. That's one of my, the key things I stress wherever I go, because if we have a meeting and we leave the meeting and no one really remembers what happened, what took place and what discussions were had and what decisions were made, everyone's wasted their time. And then the biggest problem, when there's no agenda. When there's no agenda, there is a good chance that your discussions during the meeting will go round and round. And you will go over your time limit because no one is clear on how much time they have. So just leading on from no agenda, let's talk about agendas. Agendas are a crucial tool. The word important here is, I can't stress on how important it is. When you're giving a presentation, when you are having a meeting, it is important you let everyone know what you are going to talk about, what you're going to discuss. Similarly, for meetings that involve stakeholders, that involve external parties to your organization, it's important you put out there what you intend to share. If you are the meeting leader, provide it. If you are a participant, get into the habit of asking for it. So if this has not been your practice in your organization, let this be a reset. Go back to the office the minute we start having our meetings, where we are all in the same room, social distancing aside. Let's have agendas. Even for Zoom meetings, there should be agendas. So I won't talk about this in that great a detail, but I'm sure you understand that an agenda is a necessary document, and it presents the order that issues will be discussed. The form that agendas take is really up to you and what your organization is used to. Formal, informal, complex, simple, long, short, specific, general. It's really in your court. You should get an agenda before each meeting and a set of minutes after the meeting. So preparing the agenda, I just want to talk about 3 focus areas. First one, priority of items. If you are the one leading the meeting, please consult relevant parties on what topics should be included in the meeting's agenda. If there are different heads, HODs that are presenting at this meeting, consult them to see what topics need to be included. For regular department meetings, be mindful of having an overly ambitious agenda. There will be some of us who like to talk, who like to express our ideas. So try to be mindful. Not everyone can work around a 5-slide rule, but have a version of that if that is required for certain presentations. Next one, the items of the agenda can be broadly divided into things that are for information or for noting, for discussion, and for decision and approval. Items that are informative, and if this is a serious meeting, it's a board meeting for an example, or if it's a meeting that involves external stakeholders, the ministries, government officials, things that are informative, it can be moved to AOB, any other business, if no presentation is required. To save time, some topics can be shared pre-meeting. And what you can do is then take it as read at the meeting, so that if it's really just informative, there is a new method of applying for leave online, for example, or if there's a new approval process for parent child care sick leave. If it's really informative, there's no discussion required, and it's really quite easy to understand, take it as read. Arrange topics in a descending order of importance. Now, watching the clock, enforce a version of a 5-slide rule, and I want to just spend another minute on this. In many organizations, there is this thing about death by PowerPoint. Everyone, in their 20 minutes or 10 minutes of fame, like to share lots and lots of slides, and sometimes data sharing is important. How you share the data, that's also important. However, if it's a workshop, if it's a board meeting that requires many people in the room to share their presentations, try to ensure that everyone keeps within 5 or 6 slides. And you, as the meeting leader, what you can do is give them headers for the 6 slides, for example. First one is introduction. Second one, maybe if it's a project, it would be something like where we are now. Maybe if it's a look at profit or revenue status, something that will help them put into words what you expect from them for that slide. Be realistic in setting the time allocated for each topic. This is a matter that comes up very frequently in many of my workshops when it comes to supervising others, because as middle and senior management, you are usually in charge of matters arising, or it is your responsibility to ensure that this component in the minutes is done correctly. So there are certain reasons why matters arising always occurs. Some possible reasons why items are unresolved. Number one, insufficient time. So this, we need to take stock of basically how much time we allocate, and were we realistic in allocating so little time. And second one, sometimes the subject owner might not have had sufficient information available. So maybe when there was a stakeholder or someone in the room that asked further information, the subject owner didn't have it ready. It could be many reasons for it. The figures were not out, revenue numbers were not out, data on branding was not clear. So these reasons would make it these reasons will put it under matters arising. So some strategies to fix matters arising, 3 strategies. First one, prioritizing of agenda items. Second one, categorizing matters arising items in context. And third one, shifting for approval items to main agenda. Let me just discuss it with you in slightly greater detail. First one, have a realistic number of agenda items for the time available. So especially when it comes to regular department or division meetings, be realistic with the number of items that you can accomplish in 1 hour. My rule has always been, if you have an hour for a meeting, the amount of time that you allocate is really 45 minutes, maximum 50 minutes. 10 minutes is your bonus, is the extra, because people will always go overboard. Sometimes there are questions that cannot be answered by a simple yes or no or in a sentence. So if your allocated meeting time is an hour, your agenda item should only be for about 50 minutes. Consider moving informational items to A or B, or circulating summary reports prior to the meeting. This is just reiterating what I mentioned a few slides earlier. Next, subdivide the items, for example, for information only, where they're basically only a status updates, whether it's a new project, it's a launch of a new product, a new line. No discussion expected. You are just giving everyone an update on what the status is. That would be good. Next, for discussion where there's no decision required. And finally, for decision items. Finally, admin queries that do not need to be registered as matters arising can be dealt with post-meeting via circulation. So this is important. The meeting leader needs to understand the background of the items listed under matters arising. So if you are the meeting leader, you need to be able to understand the background. And in some cases, if the item will involve robust discussion or decision making, table it as an agenda item. So what you do is you promote it to a new agenda item for this meeting and not just under matters arising. Moving on to the second part of leading, I will allocate about 5 or 10 minutes at the end of this session for questions, and I hope I'll be able to answer them in a timely fashion. Because this is a lunch and learn session, actually, I will be sharing my tips, and unlike an actual workshop where, it'll be a bit more interactive and you have certain parts of the presentation where you can share your thoughts and ideas, I seek your patience for another 15 minutes, and then please share with me your questions. So as a middle manager for leading a meeting, you have 3 things to do as a facilitator. 1, setting expectations. Number 2, managing time. And 3, encouraging the right balance. So setting expectations, important for you to let the people in your meeting understand how the input gathered will be used, or how next steps will be, what are the next steps in this process. Managing time. The first step really is to map out realistic time limitations for each activity on the agenda. So if your COO or CEO is speaking, it is unlikely 10 or 15 minutes is going to do the trick. So whenever the chairman, CEO, COO is speaking, best to check with them how much time they require, and however much time they say, please add in another 5 minutes just to be on the safe side. Establish time limits for speakers, discussion, and less structured activities. So less structured activities would be discussions, maybe a bit of brainstorming, a bit of pair sharing. It could be, but again, here be realistic and establish time limits. So if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. And Basically, the last aspect is really being respectful of others' efforts and ideas. Be very respectful with people's presentations. A lot of work has been put into it. Give them the opportunity to go through all their 5 or 6 or 7 slides. Try not to cut them off as they are speaking, because everyone is nervous presenting in meetings, especially if bosses are in the room. So try to allow them the leeway to finish their presentation. Review ideas and discussions without excessive bias. Now, as a facilitator, how you present the ideas, how you share your thoughts will be viewed on by everyone, especially your team. So try not to be overly biased about how you share ideas, and ensure that the criticism received and given is constructive. Finally, the third part, solving 3 common problems. So I shared one problem with you earlier. The 3 common problems I've identified for most meetings, be it informal or formal, are when people go off topic, when there's domination by certain people in the meeting, and finally, disengagement. So I'll just spend the next 5 or 6 minutes talking about each one. What I will do is, for each topic, I will share with you how to prevent it and how to handle it. So the first one, off topic, how to prevent it. Easy. All meetings should have an agenda so that team members know what is to be discussed. If there's no agenda, I go in, I don't know what's the plan. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how many things are going to be discussed. So it's going to be a problem. How to handle it. Be very tactful. You want team members to be involved and to be engaged. You don't want to shut them down so that they will no longer participate. Some suggestions on what you can do, maybe something along the lines of, I might not have made the objective clear. Let me try to clarify, what we are here to do today. Can you hold that comment until we finish what's on the agenda? Or maybe something even like this. That's a really interesting topic. I would like to see you after the meeting so we can discuss it and put it on the agenda for the next meeting. These are just some suggestions on how you can try to eliminate off-topic discussions. Next problem, domination. How to prevent it. So ask questions and ask for inputs by specifically inviting people to speak. And this is important. Make sure you invite people to speak by using their name. It is a bit cold when you say, HR, any comments? Or finance, what do you think? It would be better if you have a better rapport. And one of the other topics I talk about during my workshop is really understanding EQ. And we all like to think that we understand EQ, and I'm sure we do, but there's so much more we can understand about it, and there's so much that we can be so much better with the emotional quotient and how to manage people in an organization. How to handle it? Really, don't embarrass the enthusiastic participant. Tactfully interrupt them by inviting the next person to speak. So for example, something like, I think we've got the essence of your idea captured, Mike. Great. Let's see what someone else can say. Jean, would you like to go next? Now that you are not asking Mike to keep quiet and never speak again, you're actually complimenting Mike, and you're also allowing someone else to speak, and use their names. That would be useful. Or something along the lines of, Amy, I hate to stop you there, but we're going to run short of time and I really like to get input from everyone else here. So that's something else that we can do, and something else we can say. And by doing this, the person who was enthusiastic and was speaking all the time will not feel as if you're trying to keep them at bay or keep them quiet. They are happy that they got their 2 minutes of fame, and they also understand the need to get other people to speak. For people who are disengaged, try to establish an environment that encourages participation. So having meetings on Zoom sometimes can be a challenge. So if you are in charge of meetings over Zoom, try to encourage participation by always allowing the Q&A during the meeting. Maybe there's a question that you can answer. before you move on. If there is a host, if you're a panelist or if there's a host, try to discuss how you're going to do this. I understand that even with MS Teams, Blackboard and everything else, Google has just come up with their own meeting platform as well. There are ways that you can engage each members in the meeting without, keeping them at bay until the end of the 2 hours or 3 hours. Try to keep things interesting and productive. And finally, how to handle it. You have to ask yourself, why are they disengaged? Have you passed the time schedule? Hence, always try to schedule the meeting, the items on the meeting, for less than the period of the meeting. So be very prepared, because there are certain discussions, there are certain presentations, there are certain queries that will go past what the presenter thought of. So always give yourself a buffer of time. Are they bored? So maybe in this case, some could be bored because they have no reason to be at the meeting. So we need to consider, were they the right participants? Are they involved in this project? Do they understand the branding of this item? Does their work scope allow this to be meaningful to them? Some suggestions. Really, it's important that we respect participant schedule and end the meeting if we have gone way past what was scheduled. So this is something, again, we need to look at our own organization and try to remember that if we have scheduled someone's time for 2 hours, and now you are 2 hours 25 minutes, it's a bit challenging for the participants, because they would have probably have to rush to a next meeting, or they have to attend the next meeting, go in late. So a bit challenging. We again, this whole idea of virtual meetings, lockdown, circuit breaker, it has taught us that time is something we need to respect. Now that we have to use time wisely, let's try to remember that when we go back and we have non-virtual meetings. And very important, be sure everyone who is in the meeting has a purpose to be there. Because if they don't have a purpose to be there, the challenge is they will be disengaged. The next thing they will look for is their phone, they will be texting, or people who bring in their laptops for a meeting will be answering emails, and that will be a problem. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. I will encourage your questions. Just before that, I want to just take a personal note to thank everyone for your time. And also, if any of you have family members who are frontliners, my humble thanks. I know we have an audience from around the region, and I hope that everyone around is safe. Stay safe and stay well. I just wanted to share with you a very quick video. I know time is very important, so I need to walk the talk as well. And this is a video that touched me on many levels. First, because I'm a Liverpool fan, and second, because just watching the group of emergency, I think they're ambulance workers, salute the frontliners means a lot. So just bear with me. The video is just a minute long. Give me a minute. I'll pull it up. Over to you, Roger.
Hey, hi. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for sharing that video itself. It's certainly very touching. And thanks for wanting to share us. Certainly come in as a surprise to all of us, but we all can appreciate why you're sharing the video with us. And just to let our attendees know that we are also doing our part. In fact, the mass donation that we are doing right now with our Philippines counterpart, part of it will be delivered to the frontline officers, the frontline workers. So thanks for sharing this video. I think it couldn't be lovelier. So let's do our part, right? It's just a $8 contributions to a box of masks, which you can really benefit 50 person. There are 50 masks there. So part of it will be delivered to the frontline workers, frontline officials, doctors and officers. And then, while we are very protected here right now, I do feel being protected by, I think our government, like what I say, is doing a great job by giving us the mask. And we should think about people around us. We are, after all, global citizens, right, Madeline?
Yes.
Okay, I think thanks. I think to some of our attendees here, I think earlier on there were a couple of questions that were being posted, but I think along the way you've already answered those questions. So thanks, Madeline. Thank you so much. Okay, I think I'm one of the culprit that always meetings always overrun and things like that. There are a lot of things that we want to bring up in a very short amount of time, and then we're trying to cram everything. Hopefully that it will deliver, but sometimes it really works against us. It really works against our objective of really being productive in the meeting itself. So really, thank you so much. Let's address to some of the questions that are being posted now by Seth. All right, managers identified the challenges with different generations of employees. Could you advise the best practice to resolve the conflicts between or among the teams?
Oh, I can, Seth. Thank you for the question, but unfortunately, I can't do it here. I would encourage you to. It's actually one of the modules in my workshop. I do talk about multi-gen communication. Hopefully, you have an opportunity to attend my workshop. It's a long answer. It cannot be answered in 2 minutes. But yes, there are lots of challenges, and we have to embrace that different generations coexist, and their strengths from different generations, whether they are the millennials or the baby boomers or Gen Y, Gen X, everyone brings their own strengths, and we just have to work together. So yes, can be answered, but unfortunately not today. I believe my next workshop is in June, so it's on the MIS website or on Facebook.
Okay, sure. Sam, no worries, Sam, if you have any challenges in wanting to attend our lessons itself, or sorry, the course that are being conducted by Madeline, do approach us. Being our members, you do enjoy, if I'm not wrong, 15 to 20% discount off the course itself. All right, so do look out for that anyway. Which brings me to the next questions by Ms. Belinda. Where is the best place to look for the best sample minutes? I think...
Thanks, Belinda. I think the best place to look for sample minutes would be within your organization, maybe from your boss or maybe your someone who has come before you, because all of us have different ways of actually presenting minutes, and every organization is quite unique in that aspect. If you want to Google, you might find minutes, but I'm not sure whether they will work for you in your organization. So I think a good place to start would be something that your boss has indicated is clear, to the point, managed to capture the essence of the meeting, and start from there. Just a word of caution actually, because I do a lot of writing workshops as well. We all have our own writing styles. So please do not take it upon yourself to follow someone's writing style. You won't be able to do it well. So bear in mind, we all have our own writing styles. What you need to be able to do is to capture the essence of the meeting. So what was discussed? What are the next points? What are the next points you need to write down? That is more critical.
Thanks, Madeline, for that fine answer. Okay, personally, I do have a questions in mind. For you perhaps. Sometimes from time to time during meetings, there are some good points they were being brought up by the during the meeting attendees. Um, and when such points are being brought forward, which needs a bit of time to discuss or deliberate among the stakeholders that are present during the meetings itself. And sometimes it's very difficult to get everyone together again, you know. So how do you think that we can best address that, and yet at the same time try to keep to the time frame that was being allocated for the meetings?
But Roger, your problem is something that is not unique to you. A lot of people have that issue, especially when it involves stakeholders from outside the organization. So this is a rare opportunity. Everyone is in the room. What I suggest is, moving forward, we always have a space under AOB to discuss that point. Because especially if the meeting is something that is that has attendees from different organizations, and you cannot get them in the same room, maybe it's only 3 times a year or 4 times a year, try to have a mention under AOB to discuss all these points. So that will ensure that your meeting will not always overrun. And I hear you, because sometimes with everyone's schedule, it is not easy to get all the decision makers in the room at that time. So as a meeting leader, as senior management, you go, everyone is in the room, let's talk about this now, even if it's not on the agenda. But what you can do is actually always allocate such allocate it under AOB, and just move it to AOB, discuss it, and then you'll be covered.
Okay. Thanks for that tips. Okay, the next questions will be, despite of email reminders, sometimes getting colleagues to request for their presence, people are still coming in late for the meeting, and gentle reminders has been given repeatedly. How do we resolve such problem? I probably can think of one thing: just lock them out, lock them out of a room, and then so next time they know that they really have to come early for the meeting itself. So, okay, on a serious note, so what would your advice be?
May, thanks for the question. I mean, again, this is a common problem, but something we need to address. I think it actually starts from the organization. We have to be the ones leading this change, and we have to say, okay, we have always come in late, and people are always straggling in, but no more. So not to punish or penalize people who are coming in late, but try the reverse. People who come in on time get coffee. And then those who come in 10 minutes late or 5 minutes late, you have to sit behind, because you are disrupting the meeting. And the other strategy that you can try, if it's a small group, is to start the meeting on time anyway. And when people who come in at a later time, apologize, say, hey, Adam, I'm so sorry, but I had to start at 9 o'clock because everyone else was here. And slowly, I mean, it's not going to change overnight, but I think what you can do is you can stop getting colleagues to go to call them from their desk, because then you are actually encouraging that behavior. People are thinking, I'll just wait here because, May is going to get someone to come and call me anyway. When they call me, then I'll move. So you should try not to do that anymore. And everyone, I mean, we're all adults. We've been through COVID-19. The next thing we can do is be punctual. It's not much to ask, but let's all try to be punctual, so that, and at least in that way, the meeting has a good chance of starting on time. And then if it overruns, at least it's not because we started late.
Okay, good point. Okay, Madeline, next question will be from me again. So sorry. Okay, I looks like, sorry, I probably have to apologize. I think over the past few sessions, couple of sessions, some of the webinar sessions actually went beyond, because we do have we try to actually harness as much from our speakers as possible. But like what you said, the other way would be perhaps to really come in for your course, to attend your course itself, and then to learn even more. Within that hour, that's all you can get. Perhaps we try to get as much from you as possible. But I think we certainly will be able to gain more by attending your course. One last question. What if you are not the chairman? All right, you're just one of the attendees, and the chairman are habitually latecomers, and I find it very difficult to actually talk to him. Boss, please start the meeting on time. You have to respect everyone's time. And the chairman, sometimes you try to empathize with him, because it's like trying to cram everything within the day, trying to stretch his hour and things like that, and coming in late. And sometimes you need to empathize. But on the other hand, when you have been doing this on a very regular basis, and he's your boss or your boss's boss, the one that will be evaluating you at the same time, how very subtly can you bring it across to him? or to the board of directors, perhaps.
Yeah, this again, your Roger, your problems are very challenging, but true. They are very, the real life situations. I think when it comes to chairman and boss's boss and CEO being late, it is of course not right to correct them at the meeting, or to start the meeting without them. But one strategy that has worked in some cases is to, in a separate discussion altogether, is to bring up this new company direct, this new way of meetings that you have actually spearheaded. And hey boss, just wanted to share with you, these days all our meetings actually start on time. I'm quite proud of it. Everyone comes on time, and we seem to overrun less, or everyone is a lot more eager to be in the meeting room 5 minutes beforehand. I think that's all you can say, because when it comes to chairmen and CEOs, they go by, their day is by the minute. They're either on a very important con call, or they're speaking to somebody else, they're speaking to a minister, they're speaking to another stakeholder. So it is difficult for them to go, hey, I will try to be in your room 5 minutes earlier. But I think what you can do is to lay the background that, hey, we are changing as well as an organization, and everyone else, has stepped up and attending meetings on a timely basis. And hopefully, he will reflect in some way and go, oh, that's great. I'll try to come early and see, whether everyone is there. But life is unfair. Chairman can always be late.
Having said that, that's not an excuse. Right? There's always room for improvement, even coming from the board of directors or even the chairman himself. Thank you so much, Madeline, for that wonderful.
It was my pleasure, Roger. Thank you for having me.
I believe we do have a QR code, right, that we need to flash.
Yes.
Yes, so this is Ms. Madeline Ernest. Just to let you know, I think early on I left out, Madeline Ernest is actually really a familiar name with in the world of advertising and brand communications. So she has with her more than 14 years of experience working for multinational brands such as Samsung, Visa International, and of course Madeline is also a qualified trainer in her very own field. All right, her prior experience see her taking leadership roles in the area of senior account directors for MNCs, including advertising agencies, where she lead and manage regional accounts of blue chips global clients. Now there you have it on the QR code itself. If you want to find out more, you can always scan, or you can always contact one of our staff in MIS. So I think one of the questions that were being posted, or one of the points that were being brought up by one of the attendees is that, what about beyond all this suite of speakers? Are we still organizing? Yes. The good news is we're going to continue to keep you accompanied, like what I've said earlier on, right up to the end of the circuit breaker, or even the lockdown period. Okay, so that we, in fact, on Monday itself, please help me to flash out the posters on Monday. Now, Monday lunchtime webinar. Now, having said that, tomorrow it's a Labor Day, so I wish everyone happy Labor's Day. And tonight at about 7, our Prime Minister will be talking. So please log on to his speech tonight, and hopefully, you'll be able to get even more from that. Now, on Monday itself, it will be at 12, not the regular 12:30. So do take note. If you're going to join us at 12:30, you probably miss out the good half an hour on our next speaker in line, which is Mr. Chris Seow. We should be touching on Infographics Essentials. I think this is something also very interesting. So do look out for our next speaker in line. That's Chris Seow on Monday. Let me repeat the time again. It will be at 12. Okay, don't miss out on that time. And like what we said, Madeline is actually one of a very brilliant trainer. Okay, and after this, I will certainly really want to pick up one lessons from you on how to keep to be more effective when conducting meetings, perhaps. So these are our suite of MIS development courses. You can always find them on our website or on our Facebook. Okay, right. I think one last thing will be on our diploma courses. Yes, there you have it on screen. Now, this will be a very good time for you to pick up some skill set. It may not be you, it may be your nephew, your niece, your sons, your daughter, perhaps someone that you know, or someone in your company itself that you think will be able to pick up a diploma. Perhaps this will be a very good time while being in the lockdown period itself, find out more from MIS on our diploma in sales and marketing. And we do have also the advanced diploma in digital marketing. In today's world, if you are not digitally savvy, you probably might be left out, okay? And you will probably be a digital alien like me, okay? So, and including our diploma in business too, all this you can actually do it on part-time basis. And do check with us to see if we do offer online, okay, online training. And okay, this is the registration. You can log on and reach us at the telephone number out there. I wonder if anyone pick up the phone, but otherwise you can always log on to our Facebook. Okay, right. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our MI's executive development, like what we said. Now, do join us as a member, like what we have initially brought. Being our member itself, you're able to enjoy some form of discount, to come for Madeline's courses. So you can always join us as a corporate member or our associate member. For those that are from overseas, perhaps somewhere around the region, I'm looking at some of the attendees coming from Philippines, from Thailand, Sri Lanka, even as far as from China and from Korea. You can always join us as a international associate members and at the same time enjoying the same kind of benefit that our local members are enjoying right now. So do look out for more, sign up as our member, okay? Right. And last but not least, our mass donation drive again. Thanks, I think I've actually received some WhatsApp while Madeline is presenting. So on your mass donation, like what I said, just $20 for a box of masks. Okay, you can certainly do that. Okay, so do look out for how you can actually help us and join us in our mass donation. And remember, part of it will be going to the frontliner. Okay, all right, in Philippines. So do help us in this initiative so that more people around the world will be able to benefit from your kindness. Okay. Now, having said that, we've reached the end of our sessions today. And really, Madeline, I would really want to give a word of thanks to you and for sharing that very touching videos and of course, sharing your experience with us. All right, and I believe a lot of us have benefited from your sessions today and we'd like to hear more from you, okay? So please keep in touch with us and look out for Madeline on her LinkedIn, all right? And on your Facebook perhaps. And of course, Madeline is actually our trainer where MI is working with our training partner, Training Edge. The founder is Mr. Dave. Dave, thanks for offering Madeline's service to us today, to the community. Okay, so thank you. Having said that, do join us on Monday. Remember, it's 12, not 12:30. All right, so bye. We'll see you again. Make more time. We fell in love, not knowing what